Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this subject on this the 18th of March 2025. I hope you are well wherever you are tuning into this from. Apologies, I meant to put this out yesterday, but the day took a very different turn. Such is what happens, especially during this month when we get more busy with religious practices and with our fasting and everything. It's can be a busy month for people as well. So today, one thing I wanted to talk about is something that is often misunderstood, especially by people in modern context in the modern world. And that is the idea that we are Abdullah. Abdullah meaning literally slave of God, often translated today as servant of God. This came up the other day when I was interviewed by Yasmin Mohammed. And she asked me, she said, "What does it mean? In your religion, the best thing that you can become is a slave." Well, yeah, literally, that's the translation of the word, but that's not what it means to us. That's not what is intended. Certainly not the impression of what it gives you of what it is to be a slave. That's not the impression that the word is meant to convey in the modern world, or even in the original meaning within the Quran. So, what does this mean? Well, we have an idea in the modern world that we're all free, especially if we live in Western or liberal democratic countries. The reality is, each of us lives within a system. Each of us is living within a system, has dependencies, is relying upon the system, is relying upon other people, are relying upon our workplace, our employer, whether that happens to be an individual or an organization or a company. We're dependent upon our communities. We all have a lot of dependencies. This gives us some rights within those communities and systems. It also gives us responsibilities. Now, a lot of people in today's world work for their material well-being and material satisfaction. And I say in today's world because actually, even if you look historically, this was true of a lot of people throughout the ages. Now, what does Allah say in the Holy Quran about this concept? Well, if we turn to the Holy Quran, Surah 25, the criterion, the very first verse says, "Blessed is he who sent down the criterion, brackets, i.e., the Quran, upon his esteemed servant, that he may be a warner to the whole world." His esteemed servant, so that he may be a warner to the whole world. Now, who is the esteemed servant? The esteemed servant being addressed here is the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. The Prophet through which we have received guidance. The one who Allah calls in the Holy Quran Rahmatan lil Alameen, naming him after God's own quality of Rahmah. Because Allah Himself calls Himself at the beginning of every surah of the Quran except one, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And Allah named the Holy Prophet Rahmatan lil Alameen after this quality, as in the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is the exemplary. He is the one who is most expressing God's qualities through a human being, as best as they can be reflected through any human being. He is highly esteemed and highly special amongst humanity. And yet, Allah calls him his servant. But this is not a term of denigration, this is a term of honor. We can also read in the Holy Quran in Surah 6, ayat 164. This is say, shall I seek a Lord other than Allah, while He is Lord of everything? No soul commits evil but against itself, and no bearer shall bear the burden of another. Then to your Lord is your ultimate return, and He will inform you regarding that over which you differ. So, in this verse, it's referring to the fact that we don't have any real Lord except the God of creation, the one from whom everything came. And if we are serving another master, we are serving a false master. This is not something that only the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught, or only the Quran. The Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, famously said that you cannot serve two masters, God and Mammon. This is related in the Christian New Testament. It's exactly the same principle. What is Mammon? Mammon is worldliness. What does worldliness mean? A lot of people mistake this as well. Worldliness, I mean, do we like nice things? Every single one of us likes nice things. There are very few people who don't like nice things. Worldliness does not mean not liking nice things. Worldliness does not mean building your life, whether that's through a job at work or through a business or through any of these constructive means. The Prophet, peace be upon him, himself encouraged people to run businesses, to work constructively and to earn their living. And he taught that this is how we get our risk. This is how we get our allowance from God within this world. The Prophet himself was a businessman. He worked for his wife, the lady Khadija, initially, and he was a merchant. So when we're talking about worldliness, it doesn't mean that. Even the Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, was a trained carpenter. What it is referring to is an unhealthy desire for the world, an unhealthy lusting after the world, that we lose all balance. The healthy way is to work to earn a living, but at the same time, not to be so chasing worldly things that we lose all sense of balance, that we forget about God, that we forget about the importance of our family and other loved ones, that we forget about our role and responsibility as a son or a daughter, as a mother or a father, that we forget about our responsibility as a good citizen within the community, instead putting profit first. This is what it means to be a servant of Mammon. This is what it means to be worldly. A person who has a balance, and yes, they are working hard, they have a business or they're in a job and they're doing great at that, and they're giving their zakat, they're giving their charity, they're being a good father or good mother. Uh, you know, a person doing that is not worldly. You see, there's a difference between these two things, but a lot of people do get trapped in this worldly kind of uh, sort of state of mind. And if we're not careful, what does that make us? That makes us a slave of something. If we could be a slave of money, a slave to our reputation, a slave to our career, a slave to our boss. We might not have chains, we might be getting paid. But the reality is, everything we are doing is in the service of that. And that is not freedom, my brothers and sisters. Freedom is when you can actually make a choice and decide what you're going to do and make a rational choice that makes the most sense, that is for the benefit of you, for your family, for your children, for your community, for society at large, for your country. If you're not able to make those choices, how are you free? To be Abdullah is to free you from those chains as far as is reasonably and humanly possible, so that you can actually be of service to God, of service to your family, of service to your community. And yes, that is a form of servitude as well, but it is an honored form. It is a form that you will find everyone within almost every society will respect and admire. It is not something which is denigrating, which is low, or which is bad in any way or form. But what Islam is teaching us in this, what the Quran is teaching us, and what the Prophet is teaching is that you will serve something. You will be serving something. Whether you serve God, or whether you serve your lusts, or whether you serve your boss, but you will be a servant of something. So who do you serve? And what are you trying to achieve? Islam, like any uh, sensible or enlightening religion or spiritual tradition, teaches us to serve what is right and what is good, what is wholesome and what is beneficial. And that is blessed. That is a good thing. I hope this helps you understand the concept of Abdullah and what it means to be a servant of God. May Allah bless you all. May Allah accept all your fasts and devotions during this holy month. And I wish you all a very blessed week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God be on you all.